In the history of how lives are ruined, there is rarely a single moment of catastrophe. We imagine the end comes with a dramatic crash, a bankruptcy court, a foreclosure sign, or the sudden cold realization that the bank account is empty. But if you look at the ledger books of those who have lost their freedom, you find a different story. You find that they were not conquered by a single event, but by the slow, silent ticking of a clock. They were dismantled not by a sudden storm, but by the compound interest they failed to harness. This is the story of the greatest invisible power in the modern world. It is the story of how time, when weaponized, can build an empire, and how, when ignored, it can become a terminal illness. It is a cautionary tale that echoes from the marble halls of the Victorian era to the digital wallets of today, because it demonstrates a brutal financial truth. You do not need to be rich to own your future. You simply need to start before the clock runs out. 2. Understand the hidden power of saving early. We must look past the boring advice of bankers and look instead at the architecture of time itself. In the middle of the 19th century, the British Empire did not dominate the globe simply because of its navy. It dominated because it understood the cold, hard economics of empire. They knew that the most effective way to destroy a rival was not to attack it, but to wait for the compound interest to do the work. For the individual, the same law applies. Your life is an empire in the making, but beneath the surface of your daily routine, a foundation is being laid. If you wait until you are a titan to start saving, you will find that the foundation is already rotting. You will find yourself like the Ottoman sultans trying to buy the appearance of a great power using other people's money, only to realize too late that every loan is a tether and every bond is a chain. The secret to sovereignty is not found in the size of your paycheck, but in the distance between today and your deadline. To the untrained eye, saving money looks like an act of deprivation. We are told it is about giving things up. The coffee, the travel, the luxury of the present. But this is the version of finance written for those who are destined to remain subjects. If you look at the ledger books of history's most successful dynasties, you see that saving is not about subtraction. It is about the alchemy of time. It is the process of turning the lead of a common wage into the gold of sovereign power. In the world of finance, as in the world of empires, there is a dividing line between those who understand the math and those who are consumed by it. On one side, you have the creditors, the men like the Rothschilds, who could buy the Suez Canal in a 48-hour fever dream because they had the liquidity standing ready. On the other, you have the debtors, the desperate rulers like the Khedive of Egypt, who sold his nation's future to pay for his past. The hidden power of saving early lies in a mathematical phenomenon that feels like magic but functions like a law of nature: compound interest. Einstein famously called it the eighth wonder of the world, but for the individual, it is something more visceral. It is a force multiplier. If you begin your journey in the springtime of your life, time acts as a massive industrial engine, churning in the background while you sleep. A single dollar planted in the soil of a productive asset at age 20 does more work than $10 planted at age 40. This is because wealth is not a linear climb. It is an exponential explosion. In the early years, the growth is invisible, a silent accumulation that looks like nothing on a screen. But then you hit the inflection point. The interest begins to earn interest on itself. The math begins to do the heavy lifting, and suddenly the small, disciplined habit of a young worker outpaces the desperate, frantic investments of a middle-aged titan. But most people miss this window. They succumb to the resource curse of a steady paycheck. They look at their income and see it as a disposable commodity rather than seed capital. They are like the Spanish Empire in the 16th century, drowning in silver but failing to invest in the productivity of their own people. They spend the gold of their youth on the trinkets of the present, unaware that they are hollowing out their own foundation. By the time they realize they need a fortress, they no longer have the time to build one. They find themselves in the sterling trap, forced to borrow from their future selves at a ruinous rate. To save early is to recognize that your most valuable asset is not your salary. It is the uninterrupted compounding of years. It is the only way to ensure that when the storms of history eventually arrive, you are the one holding the ledger, not the one being foreclosed upon. While the alchemy of time works in the shadows, to build your fortress, there is a rival force working just as tirelessly to dismantle it. In the cinematic history of failed states, we find a recurring character: the titan in debt. This is the individual or the nation that maintains a glittering exterior, the high-end car, the designer wardrobe, the sprawling estate, while the internal ledgers are bleeding red. They are living in what economists call a hollowed-out state. They have confused the appearance of power with the possession of it. To understand the danger of this illusion, we only need to look at the Ottoman Empire in the 1850s. To the outside observer, the Sultan in Istanbul was an invincible sovereign, ruling over a territory that bridged 3 continents. But the foundation was rotting. To pay for modern warships and lavish palaces, the empire began to borrow from the banks of London and Paris. They thought they could import modernity using other people's money. They didn't realize that money is never neutral. Every loan was a tether, every bond was a chain. By the time the bill came due, the British and French didn't need to invade with soldiers. They simply sent the accountants to take over the tax office. The sick man of Europe wasn't killed by a bullet. He was foreclosed upon. In your own life, the debt trap arrives not with a bang, but with a signature. It is the credit card used to fund a lifestyle your seed capital cannot yet support. It is the car loan that eats 20% of your take-home pay, effectively garnishing your own future before you've even lived it. When you spend money you haven't saved, you are not just buying a product, you are selling your time. You are entering into a sterling trap where you must work tomorrow to pay for a meal you ate yesterday. The hidden power of saving early is that it provides the only true defense against this financial slavery: liquidity. In 1875, when the Khedive of Egypt went bankrupt, the British Prime Minister, Benjamin Disraeli, didn't ask Parliament for permission to act. He used a 48-hour loan from the Rothschilds to buy the Suez Canal before his rivals could even wake up. He had the financial maneuverability to change the map of the world. By saving early, you are building your own Rothschild reserve. You are ensuring that when opportunity knocks, or when the storms of the market arrive, you are the one making the acquisition, not the one being liquidated in a distressed asset sale. In the world of macroeconomics, there is a phenomenon known as the resource curse. It describes nations that are blessed with vast natural wealth, gold, silver, or oil, but end up poorer, more unstable, and more fragile than those with nothing. This paradox occurs because easy money is a narcotic. It creates the illusion of prosperity while the internal organs of the economy begin to fail. For the individual, the equivalent of the resource curse is the high salary trap. Consider the Soviet Union, in the 1970s. Geologists had discovered the Samotlor field, a sea of black gold beneath the Siberian permafrost. Suddenly, the Kremlin was awash in hard currency. They didn't need to innovate. They didn't need to fix their broken factories. They simply needed to drill holes in the ground and wait for the checks to arrive. They confused luck with genius. But when the price of oil plummeted in the 1980s, the Soviet bear found itself with armor of steel and feet of clay. It had become a drug addict, and the dealer had just cut the supply. Many young professionals today are living their own version of the 1970s Soviet Union. They earn a high salary and immediately expand their lifestyle to match it. They buy the luxury apartment, the high-performance car, and the premium subscriptions. They are drilling for oil in their corporate careers, but they are failing to build a diversified sovereign fund. They believe their income is a permanent fixture of the landscape, but in the cold light of history, every high-income period is a temporary commodity boom. The hidden power of saving early is that it prevents the atrophy of the financial muscle. When you save a significant portion of your income before you need to, you are forcing yourself to live with a lean, efficient infrastructure. You are building a diversified economy that does not rely on the single commodity of your current job. If the market price of your specific skill set drops, or if a geopolitical shift in your industry occurs, you aren't left standing in the breadlines of a personal depression. You have the reserves to pivot, to reinvest, and to survive. By the time the Soviet Union realized it was broke, it was too late to build a factory. By the time most people realized their high salary was a temporary gift, they no longer have the time to let compound interest save them. In the final accounting of history, there is no such thing as a neutral financial status. You are either the architect of your own fortress, or you are a tenant in someone else's. We have seen how the British Empire, the most expansive dominion in human history, was forced into a distressed asset sale of its global influence because it failed to settle its accounts before the storms of 1939 arrived. We have seen how the Ottoman sultans traded their sovereignty for the glittering jewelry of debt, only to have their tax offices seized by foreign accountants. These are not just stories for the history books. They are the blueprints of the human condition. The hidden power of saving early is the power of sovereignty. When you possess capital that has been allowed to compound in the silence of your youth, you are not just retired, you are a sovereign individual. You have the ability to say no to a toxic master, no to a decaying industry, and no to the frantic, desperate survivalism that defines the modern age. You become like the United States in 1895, a rising power that can give orders to the world, because its internal expansion is complete and its treasury is full. You gain the financial maneuverability to act while others are frozen in the sterling trap of their own making. But the clock is a ruthless creditor. It does not accept excuses and it does not offer extensions. Every day you delay the start of your sovereign fund is a day you are voluntarily hollowing out your own foundation. You are choosing to be Spain, drowning in the gold of today, while your productivity withers. You are choosing to be the Soviet Union, pegging your survival to a number on a trading screen that you cannot control. History proves that empires do not collapse because of a single explosion. They die when the math no longer works. They die when the check finally bounces. By saving early, you are ensuring that your personal empire never reaches that point of no return. You are weaponizing time so that it works for you rather than against you. The question is not whether the storms of history will arrive. They always do. The question is whether, when the fog rolls in and the margin call of life is made, you will be the one holding the ledger or the one being foreclosed upon. In the cold, hard light of economics, your freedom is not a right, it is a dividend, and that dividend is only paid to those who had the discipline to plant the seed while the sun was still shining. This is the Wealth History Tales channel. Subscribe now to stay ahead of the curve, because when the history books are written, you'll want to be among the few who saw the true power of the ledger.